down your beers, but while you do, listen to this story. Here it is. Because I'm sure you might be curious as to what the deal is with this wacky hat that I always wear.
Yes.
All right, here it is. Once upon a time, in the town of Bolinas, California, there lived a little boy named Richard Ratchet. And Richard hadn't a mom, he hadn't a dad. All he had was the clothes on his back and whatever he could beg. And he wasn't much good at begging. Richard lived on a ledge on a cliff face overlooking the Pacific, and he made friends with the otters and gulls and seals. But one day, he went for a long walk through the mighty trees, and he came upon a train trestle. And underneath, he found a wheezy old hobo. And Richard asked the hobo, he said, "Hey, mister, where you been?" And the hobo replied, "Everywhere." And Richard said, "Well, what you gonna do now?" And the hobo said, "Nothing left to do but die. But before I do, let me give you a present." And he handed Richard a ratty old cap. He said, "I stole this hat off the head of a dandy back when it was still a fancy felt fedora. I fixed it up with my trusty rusty pocket knife, and now it gives the wearer something I call charming. See, as long as you wear this hat, no matter where you go, you get what you need." Then the air went frosty cold, and death rode in on a bank of fog, and he reached out from his cloak, and that old hobo wheezed no more. Well, Richard put that cap on his head and started walking, and he didn't stop till he got to Timbuktu. And then he saw the land of China, and he sailed the boat the poles, and he hit the cobbled streets of London, Budapest, and Copenhagen, Paris, and Valencia, and spent a year in Prague. He crossed savanna, tundra, taiga, forests, valleys, rivers, mountains. He hacked away at wild jungles, and he rode a camel up and down the dusty desert dunes. No matter where he went or what age he was, he wore that ratty old cap with pride. And all the folks in all the lands would smile warm and have him in for tasty treats and let him lay his head to rest. But one day, Richard Ratchet, bald as could be, with 2 teeth in his head and a beard that dragged on the ground when he stood straight up, came upon an ancient relic of a train trestle covered in moss and vines. And he knew then that he'd seen it all. The whole world, and he knew that somewhere a fat lady was singing. And who did he find underneath that trestle? You guessed it. Yours truly. None other than Clyde Always, new to the road and munching a can of sardines. And Richard asked me, he said, "Hey son, where you been?" I said, "Nowhere's yet, Pops." Then he gave me his story all raspy and low, and he hacked and he wheezed and he coughed. And he gave me the hat, and I hiked out through the fog, and I swear as I did, I felt the air go frosty cold. Tune in next Friday night for another episode of the Clyde Always Show. Good night.